Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Debate Aya program with your host Tariq Khan. Today we'll explore and analyze United States of America, USA external relations, US foreign policy towards Central Asian states, and the factor or influence of Russia or China in the region. Let us bring our guest in program, Mr. Kuanysh. You are independent consultant and analyst in political and international relations from Kazakhstan. Kuanysh, thank you so much for joining Debate AI program, and you are most welcome.
Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure to have this discussion because, especially nowadays, when this region and the happening neighbor countries, it's so important for the global geopolitical situation in the world.
Kuanysh, how would you analyze and explain the history of United States of America and Central Asian states, our relations with US? How would you analyze?
The history starts from the 1991 when as I'm from Kazakhstan, I will tell that we got our independence in 1991, late 1991, and the US started to recognize as the first country independence. History shows that the US, America, left this country as a not important region, despite that it's very important. The first thing is because it was a nuclear potential of the region, especially of Kazakhstan, because after the collapsing of the USSR, Soviet Union, Kazakhstan became third or fourth nuclear power in the world, along with Ukraine and America, and it was successful because Kazakhstan and Ukraine decided not to follow this big game, and they just denied their potential and give it all to the USA and Russia. After this, especially in Kazakhstan, it started strong economical ties with the US. Massive investments to Kazakhstan, especially to the oil gas sector. The Kazakh political establishment became so rich. First was the corruption, but anyway, it led them to do their things despite what happens around them. Because again, I repeat that it was a massive investment that never seen this region before. US consider this region as not important in a geopolitical terms, because first of all, if you can Google it, that never ever know of the US president have ever visited the Central Asian region. You can see that they can visit any country in in Asia, in Africa, in South America, but never visited to the Central Asian region. It says a lot that the US never considered before this region as a kind of important to put their this geopolitical interests. Even so that Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan before had the US military bases in their soil, but when the governments of that countries decided not to follow this ties and asked them to literally go away from their land, the US never put any effort to stay. First of all, of course, it was led by Russia. They wanted to not to have any American presence in this region, especially military. Again, the main reason why they left because they had a big military bases neighborhood country as Afghanistan since 2003. Maybe, and the most likely that it was the main reason why the U.S. left Central Asia in terms of military. Before America, despite that it wasn't so important for the America to have this interest over here, but it tried in 1990s. It tried to put their efforts. For example, they tried to put Central Asian region to the so-called organization Guam. It means Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Moldova. They tried to Central Asian region to be very good ties and to create a new organization like CIS. It's a former organization of the ex-Soviet countries. But everything was a fail because of lack of interest and the big influence of the Russia that has in this region. America never left their cultural, economical influence in this region. As I said before, especially Kazakhstan has a very big projects involving Chevron and other European big oil companies. It still works, and it gives a big potential for make it this thing bigger for the U.S. And in terms of economy, in 1990s, America and its specialists tried to help to reform to make economical reforms in the region, but every single country of the region denied it. But the Kazakhstan accepted, and it worked very close with the economic specialists, and because of this, Kazakhstan now has the best pension reforms in the whole ex-Soviet countries, because specialists from the USAID, this organization, consulted a lot our economists and other financial institutions, especially government.
Kuanysh, how would you analyze U.S. relations with Central Asian states in the existing situation, and what are the interests and priorities in the region?
Looks like that it's a little bit late that U.S. involving in this region, but it's never. The last decade, the U.S. tried to put so many efforts in to make economical prosperity in the region. Well, as I mentioned before, the U.S. is one of the main foreign taxpayers and investors of the Kazakhstan. The biggest taxpayer maybe in Kazakhstan because it has a Tengiz project. It's involved Kazakhstan government and the Chevron company has a big project. It means called Tengiz. It has a big infrastructure. It rented this big portion of the land in the West Kazakhstan, but the sizes maybe with the average European countries' land. So it helps a lot to Kazakhstan because of the investments, and it's a security issue because of this maybe Russia will never invade any region of the Kazakhstan, especially western region, or when we are very rich oil and gas region, because they will have a problem with the U.S., the biggest counterparts of there, because it's again economical interest in the region of the U.S. And then America has it's very like to put effort in soft power instead of what does Russia for maybe the last 50 years in the region. Soft power includes educational, cultural ties. It has a lot of American corners that led by the State Department all over the region, in the Kazakhstan and the other countries of the Central Asia. The main thing that happens in the last 5 or 6 years, it's if you ever heard about this C1 plus 5 format, that it means that that includes US and the other 5 Central Asian countries. It was created by the Obama administration, and it's his main foreign strategic John Kerry, Secretary John Kerry. He had several visits because of this to the region, and after starting this format, Russia and China, for example, activated their involving to the region. It was a big involvement before, but after this format, they started to do big things. Especially Russia, they started to stop this by not the direct involvement, but the so-called hybrid warfare that to make to the social media, through the TV, for the other resources. They started to put effort to the anti-American, anti-Western moods in the region. However, it doesn't help so much because they don't have so much resources to fight economically in any region in the world, despite that we're very close to the Russia.
Kuanysh, how do you view U.S. relations with Central Asian states, especially after the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and how Central Asian states view U.S. relations in the context of neighboring country Afghanistan in the given current scenario, as most of the Central Asian states are comfortable with the Taliban government? How would you analyze?
Afghanistan is the main clue region and the aspect for the region, especially for the US. As I mentioned before, because of the Afghanistan that they had, America had the air bases, military base over there, strong presence. They left in the military term the Central Asia. But because of Afghanistan, they could always had influence to the region, because even now we can see that when once the US left Afghanistan, with all the Central Asian countries activated their military, they started to think about the defense a lot. It tells a lot again that anyway the US was a garant of the stability, especially peace stability for any states of the Central Asia. I do. It's a lot of insights that the US tried to involve the Turkey to this region, especially in the terms of Afghanistan, because it's Turkish involvement. It's big because 4 of the 5 countries of the region are Turkic countries, like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. We have a strong cultural, religional, and just linguistic closeness to the Turkey. Most of our countries and people see in the Turkey the big brother rather than the Russia. Yes, so as the Turkey is a very strong ally of the U.S. and it's a NATO member state. My opinion is that the U.S. want to not to be involved directly, but with the Turkey to the region. Especially, we can see that if you know, it was a Karabakh conflict late last year and early this year, and that it was a kind of signal to the Russia and the entire world that Russia have losing their influence to the region, and not on the region any kind of cooperation, because they couldn't help Armenia in this conflict because of Azerbaijan. Armenia is in the same organization, military organization with Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries, but Azerbaijan is a very strong ally of the Turkey, and no one of the Central Asian countries supported Russia because they can't fight against its brothers like Azerbaijan and Turkey. So it was a first signal that Central Asian countries started not to look at Russia, but strong allies with its brother countries like Azerbaijan, Turkey. It's more important. In terms of Afghanistan, we know that today Turkey has a strong influence in the Afghanistan. It's mostly hidden, but we can talk about later. So Afghanistan Afghanistan conflict will let that eventually that all the Central Asian countries will be just cut from the Russia and the Chinese influence, maybe eventually.
Kuanysh, how do you view or analyze Russia's role and engagement for Central Asian states and U.S. relations?
Yes, Russia historically has a strong influence in the region, especially after the collapsing of the USSR. This influence still works. For example, they had firstly it's a demographical influence, because all these countries has before had and now some of them has strong a big Russian presence. I mean, we have a lot of ethnical Russians who lives but most of them think that they're the Russians. They're part of the Russian world. They never speak. They never follow they never speak the local languages. They never follow any cultural ties, any holidays. They never care about what happens in the region, despite they living in this region centuries. I mean, the Russian-speaking people in the it is a big influence. Yes, another it's a Eurasian concept. Eurasian. Before Eurasia, it was a big region that includes all the Europe and Asian countries. It was just not the political, but the geographical region. But after the collapsing the USSR, Eurasia started to think how to say it's analogy with Russia. If we say Eurasia, mostly we mean Russia. Russian resources in the region is big. Yes, firstly, it's a military. They have in every country they have still military bases that includes so many aspects. Not in the only one city or one region of the countries, but in several parts of each country have a military bases. It's a strong influence. But we have a problem because not we, but Russia had a problem starting from the Ukraine crisis in 2014. All the countries of the Central Asia started to think about cooperation with Russia, because we always see that if they attacked in the closest state as Ukraine, they can attack any country despite what happens over there, despite the agreements, despite the history, everything. But Russia never cares about, because when we say Russia, we mean Vladimir Putin. And so Ukrainian crisis changed the mindsets of the people of the region, and especially of the rulers of this region. But this Russia again is very strong in the hybrid warfare. They can manage all this thing to the people who works over here, who lives over here. They don't need any visa to visit this region. It helps them a lot. They have a lot of resources in this term. Then another big issue about Russian engagement to the US, to the Central Asia and the US relations. Because of the Central Asia, they always has a big conflict with hidden conflicts with the US. Because as the US wants to have interests over here, but Russia always against it. The main issue that still all the presidents, it's not a secret that all the presidents of the Central Asia, but the Kazakh president is put by the Russian government. When it was after the death of when Islam Karimov, it's a ex-president of the Uzbekistan. It was messy in the region. Who will be the next president? What will be? What shall we expect? But it happened as always happens with the Russian when the Russia involves the current prime minister, that by the law he couldn't be any president, he hasn't any influence, that big influence. He became the president of the Uzbekistan in a very short term, because after the funeral of the ex-president, Vladimir Putin visited Tashkent. It's the capital city of Uzbekistan, and after this, they all decided that Shavkat Mirziyoyev will be the next president of the Uzbekistan. The same happens in the Turkmenistan and the Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. Whoever is president over here, they are accepted and confirmed by Russia. Before, it seems that they have the same strategy in Kazakhstan, but the ex-president of the Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, has a strong international influence. He has a strong authority among the global leaders. It makes a big problem for the Russia. They can't just tell him what will happen in the Kazakhstan. Whatever they do, Russians do in Kazakhstan, it's the hidden activities that not approved by the local government, but by the leader. So they try to make some uprisings to the social media and other. Even they wanted to make any revolutionary moods, even a revolutionary in about 3 years ago, but now they failed everything because again Nazarbayev has a straw. He played he played his own game. He left the position. He retired, resigned, but put his own president. But anyway, he has a strong. Everybody in Kazakhstan and in the region, everybody knows that he's still ruling the Kazakhstan. He's very convenient to the US, to Europe, to China, and maybe sometimes for Russia, but not now. Because of this, he's still ruling because in Kazakhstan there is a lot of interest of the many countries, not only Russia. Because again, because of this, Russia can't so strongly influence to the political field, especially in the establishment in Kazakhstan, in front of the other countries of the Central Asia.
Kuanysh, how would you analyze Chinese factor at Central Asian states or Central Asia and relationship with Taliban? How would you analyze?
Yes, Chinese factors are another issue for the region because China hasn't long-term plans for any country or any projects they have. China, because never considered as a military power, because they don't have a history of the military invasions, they don't have a history of any military conflicts, successful conflicts all over the world, even with the neighbor countries. They have own problems with Taiwan, or they have problems with Hong Kong. Even inside of China, they have so many ethnical and religious with minority conflicts. So, but China always think that they can buy everything. They have money. They can buy countries, lands, projects. Through the projects, they want to be involved to the political sphere. Before it seems that it works because it was the rumors that they bought so many lands in Kazakhstan and other countries of Central Asia. Yes, maybe they did, but money never plays so much role because when the rulers are changing in any country, especially in the Central Asia, they can just terminate any previous agreements, any previous contracts. So all the money, all the projects they put to the region, they can just be terminated by anyone. It never works. So in this term, China failed a lot in the region because first of all, they helped, not helped, but sponsored it. They made a lot of investment to the infrastructure. They wanted to build this their project, One Belt, One Way. They wanted to pave the high roads to the Europe, to the Central Asian region. And the fact is that all these countries just use their investment for the improving the infrastructure, but for now it's not crystal clear what happens the next, because infrastructure built, but no one wants to be involved with China, because China never asked something. It never had agreement. I mean, that should be when any investment should say that we'll do this, but afterward you have to do this, but it would never be discussed. Another thing that country of the US and Russia, local population in the Central Asia has a very strong anti-Chinese moods, because always think, I mean the demographics over here think that China will just invade us, China will make us everybody Chinese. This mood still strong, and any ruler of the country have to deal with this, because China can't start immediately their influence despite the money, despite the economical resources they have. Even now we can see that in the case of Taliban and Afghanistan Taliban, nobody includes China as a big player of this big game. It always says about the US and Russia, yes, in terms of the region, but never China, because first, as I said before, I mentioned before that China hasn't resources to have resources and the reasons to have military bases, military presence in the region, and nobody asks them. Really, it happens. It looks ridiculous, but nobody asks them what to do next in the region. It shows a big issue that China can't compete with the big military powers in any region, because the initial plan was not the military conflicts, military presence. They thought that they can buy everything, they can buy governments, they can buy lands, and this is how the world works. Now we know that this is not the way the world works. Another thing that it's a pandemic and the other economical issues that has China nowadays in their own soil. They has a lot of problems with electricity, but they're just very new things. But before the last 2 years, China has their own domestic problems, especially economically. So they have to deal with this. They have to solve these problems. So their involvement to what happens in the region, maybe it's less as it should be. I mean, in terms of interest of China, not in terms of interest of any Central Asian country, because as a citizen of the country that in this region of Kazakhstan, I don't never want to be China be here to dictate what we do, what should do, and other things. It's a big issue because they don't have this culture of the relations with other countries. They don't have this sense of the soft power. They don't have the sense of to be nice with other kind, because Russia and China will never speak with the language we speak over here. They just maybe wanted to replace our native national languages with their language. They want to provide their own cultural values, everything. That's why we always have the anti-Chinese, sometimes anti-Russian moods in the region, because disrespectful attitude from any country will never be welcomed good to any country and any population, not in the region but all over the world. As I said, it never works, because when we have a national interest, we always if you know, in 2017 they want before the 2017 they bought so many lands and so many factories, project properties in Kazakhstan. Literally it was happened, but after this, then maybe Kazakh government, I don't know who, created this uprising protests against the Chinese influence and Chinese investments to the region, because after 2017 we have to give the China so many lands for their projects, because they just literally bought it. But it was stopped everything, because the local population was against it. They wanted to, because we never had this protest moods, never in the region, despite all the things we had happened. Because in terms of land, this is a culture of the, it's a identity of the Kazakhs, that we never will give any land to anyone. Because of this, there's a lot of marriages that led by the president of the Kazakhstan and the other rulers of this of our country, that they just freeze, and maybe freeze forever for the decades, several decades, all the projects that should be done by the China in our country. Yes, most of these projects needs resources, money resources. Before, China has these resources. Now, and they were very active, but now they don't have this resource. They have own problems, especially pandemic just messed everything, not in the region, but all over the world, but especially in this region, because we don't have that strong trade relations with the China, because borders are closed. Only diplomats, maybe, and other important persons can visit this region, and nobody can visit China. Borders are closed. Only the trade goods can be passed to this borders, but not that amount that it was before. So the economical and other influence of the China in the region, it's became lower. I hope it will be maybe less year by year. So the main reason is the economical problem of the China and the domestic problems. You know, they had a lot of domestic current problems, especially in the inner China, mainland China. They have their own problems with the Hong Kong, so maybe that's why Central Asian region, they just put in the second or third position in terms of neighborhood countries.
Kuanysh, who are the hidden significant players or the countries in the current Afghanistan Taliban case or in the Central Asian region? How would you analyze?
Yes, it's a very good question. The main country hidden player, it's a Turkey. As I mentioned before, the Western allies, especially US, want to involve the Turkey to the region a lot because of the strong regional and the cultural ties of this country with our states. We now created the Turkic Union, and we have the capital, official capital of the Turkic Union is the city of Turkestan in Kazakhstan, in southern Kazakhstan. Maybe it's not, it sounds very, maybe just kind of normal thing, but it has a strong, if we read between the lines, it starts very that time when before the Afghan conflict. Then Turkey started to make a big investments, especially in the airports. Most of the airports, Central Asia, the main airport of the whole region, the Almaty International Airport. It was sold to the Turkish company. They will make a big investment. They will renovate everything. And so the United Nations, recently United Nations decided that the Almaty will be the main hub, air hub in the Afghan conflict. It will be used, Almaty airport will be used for any needs to solve this Afghanistan conflict. Then Turkey controlling with their people in the Afghanistan Kabul airport. We know it. It's maybe it's not that official, but they have this control. Because of this, Taliban didn't touch anyone who was leaving, who was escaping from the Afghanistan about months ago. It's a very important things. If we read between lines all these things, another big, not that such big player, it's Pakistan, because we can see that it was a Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting this year, about 2 weeks ago in Dushanbe, Tajikistan. No President Xi, no Putin were involved into this physically. They didn't present, they didn't attend this meeting because of the pandemic. Then Putin said it was he have to be isolated from the other people because of the coronavirus. We know it's just justifying their why he's not attending this, and we know why China didn't were there, because it's a Chinese-led organization, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and I think Chinese president must be over there, but he didn't. So Pakistan was a clue player over there. Nobody maybe put their attention to the Pakistan, because Pakistan never considered as a key player in the region. But in terms of the Pakistan power, military power especially, very close regional ties, because all the states of the Central Asia Muslim countries. Finally, we need strong allies, not among the China or Russia, who hasn't any cultural, language, or at least religion ties with us. We need someone like Turkey and Pakistan. It's very time in this term. Maybe it's not. It is crystal clear in this term that Pakistan and Turkey, using by the Western allies, especially with the US, to be involved to them, to the region, because they can't be involved directly. Turkey is a NATO member, and Pakistan is good enough allies, military allies of the US. So in the role that played Pakistan in this meeting in Dushanbe, Tajikistan, I was personally, I was very happy to see the Pakistan over there, especially its president, prime minister. Sorry. So this is briefly who is the hidden players. There are a lot of insights that soon, maybe late this year or next year, it will be military bases in the of the US. They were now in the close talking with Russia that they should have military bases in the region. Finally, maybe it happens because of the against Turkey and Pakistan, because they put their effort. Maybe if it not be the directly US military base, maybe for sure it will be for Turkey or Pakistan in the region. Because recently I've been in the Dubai and that region. I know how the Pakistan influence, especially military for that region. Some people say that they had a strong agreement with Pakistan. Arabian Peninsula countries with Pakistan. They don't have resources to protect themselves from it, but Pakistan anytime can protect them from, because it has strong military, it has a nuclear weapon, everything to protect any Muslim country in the world. So this is briefly who is the hidden players in the region. It's most like hidden players, states for the Central Asian countries.
Kuanysh, thank you so much for your precious time, valuable in-depth analysis on U.S. foreign policy towards Central Asian states and the special factors China, Russia, Pakistan, Turkey and other regional countries in the Central Asian states. Thank you so much again for your time in Debate IR program.
Thank you for having me. Hope to have another discussions. It was very pleasant for me.